The Objective News Network, The Gun Control Debate, Part 1, Historical Context of the Gun Control Debate. Hello, this is John Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network. Today we are going to talk about the issue of gun control. In Part 1, we will take a brief look at the historical context of guns in America at the time the founders wrote the Constitution. In Part 2, we will examine the differing opinions in today's gun control debate. In Part 3, we will identify some of the pros and cons on either side of the gun control debate. At the Objective News Network, we use a powerful software research tool that brings us only validated information from credible sources to support our news analysis. Authentication serves as a starting point for finding objective facts that can support civil discourse to frame the best solutions to complicated issues of the day. At the time the framers crafted the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and later our Constitution, America was quite different than it is today, and this difference played a significant role in framing the founders' worldview, and along with it, the proper role of guns in our society. All of us know that the United States sprung from a deep British cultural heritage. So to put today's debate about gun control in historical perspective, let's quickly type into authentication the following assertion. How did the British feel about guns in the 18th century? Here we see an interesting data set at nature.com telling us that guns before the 1790s were not used in crimes of passion, for riots, or things like mass shootings of civilians by other civilians. At the time of the colonists, guns were simply too cumbersome, inaccurate, and undependable for these types of uses. For this reason, guns were generally considered at the time as mini cannons that were really the instruments of sovereign countries and their standing armies for defense and to wage war. Circumstances, however, may have given the founders a slightly different worldview about the role of guns in our society. While sharing the same deep cultural heritage as the British, the colonists were different in many ways. They were highly self-reliant. In the pre-industrial agrarian age, the colonists were farmers and mercantilists who hunted, grew their own food, and bartered goods independent of direct British economic control. Even though the firearms of the day were cumbersome, undependable, and highly inaccurate at anything but close range, the colonists learned to use them effectively to survive. For example, in their fight with the British, the colonists adopted a type of guerrilla warfare that employed hit-and-run tactics, using their firearms, but only at close range. Much of this knowledge about the use of guns in guerrilla warfare was already mastered by the colonists. Let's take a moment and type into authentication American Indian Wars during the colonial period. Here's a remarkably well-sourced data set at history.com telling us about the Powhatan attack on the Jamestown colonists as far back as 1622 that was used as the excuse by the British government to attack Indians and confiscate their land. The same article provides a detailed listing of the Indian Wars during the colonial period, demonstrating the frequency and intensity of the Indian resistance to the confiscation of their lands. This aspect of colonial America at the time of the founders is significant because it demonstrates that unfettered personal ownership of firearms was a given, because guns were essential to the very survival of many colonists for reasons quite apart from the later requirement of forming militias. This is perhaps the reason that the founders could have so easily accommodated what appears, at first glance, to be a direct contradiction in the Constitution. On the one hand, saying that guns were necessary for use by militias, while on the other hand stating so unequivocally that the right to bear arms by individual citizens shall not be abridged. The people of the fledgling American Republic also had fresh memories of their battle for independence from an oppressive British crown. Thus, the various colonies were highly suspicious of giving power to any central government, for fear that it would surely end up wresting away their hard-fought independence and control over their lives, liberty, and their ability to pursue happiness in each of the individual states of the new Union. In short, the framers did not trust large central governments because of the experiences taught throughout history that the formation of large, powerful central governments has consistently proven antithetical to the notions of long-term justice and liberty for all members of society because of the growth of insidious corruption over time. So that brings us to the end of part one, the historical context of the gun control debate. Next time, in part two, we will take a look at some of the differing opinions in today's gun control debate. It is what it is for September 10th, 2022. Please join us for part two of our series, the gun control debate. This is John Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network. We look forward to seeing your comments at our blog.